Hey guys, hi, welcome back once again. My name is Vaishali, and today I'd like to talk about something that gives us nourishment, something that also at times gives us pleasure, and that's food. Well, it's of course something that's outside of us and that's edible, something that gives us nourishment, something that also provides pleasure at times, something that can be very tasty to our palate in keeping with our palate, and something we may not necessarily enjoy eating. It's something that satiates the desire of hunger. It's something that helps us survive and also at times makes us feel come alive. Now, is it just one thing when we talk of food? No, there's a whole array of things that we eat, which we then call as food. Some things that provide us carbohydrates, something that provides us glucose, something that provides us fat, something that provides us proteins, something that provides us XYZ kinds of other mineral nutrients. And would we like it if we only had one single thing to eat for the rest of our life? Probably not. Probably it will not even give us the nutrients that our body requires, but it will also not satiate our palate. It will also get pretty boring. And that is why we probably have an array of food to select from. And of course there are various ways depending on the culture that we come from that we cook it in different ways, or at times we even eat it raw. So where am I going with this thought for food? Well, exactly there. Food for thought. Now, first instinctive reaction towards food is with regards to what I've talked about earlier, but also thought is the food that we are constantly having. That is our constant companion. Emotion is another food that is our constant companion, and it is both of these constant, consistent companions that makes us who we are. Unfortunately or unfortunately, like we give ourselves a breather after eating something to be able to digest it, we don't keep pushing things one after the other 24/7. Thoughts and emotions do not work that way. Almost all the time, our thoughts are constantly interacting with other thoughts. Almost all the time, our thoughts or our emotions are constantly also interacting with each other, and therein they are not separate from one another because they interact and they interplay with each other, within each other. On some levels, it is exactly like the concoction that happens within all of us, wherein when we eat the salad and the soup and the bread and the dessert, it all comes in together. It all gets mushed up together. And then for our body to understand it, to be able to assimilate it, it has to break it down, which means that in order to break it down, it has to sit with it. It has to give it some rest. Well, paradoxically, it's working from within. Paradoxically, it's working from the inside, where we are not consciously aware of it. The body in itself is trying to take in the nutrients or the stuff that it needs for itself while trying to discard what it doesn't want for itself, all on the unconscious or the subconscious level. And probably on some level, that is exactly what happens with our thoughts and emotions. Most of the times, we are not consciously aware of them. Most of the times, it's happening at a very subconscious level, and therefore, when we even talk of food the very first time, that is not the first image that comes to our head. And like we don't keep shoving food 24/7, 365 days for the rest of our life, we give ourselves a breather before we take the next meal or before we take the next bigger bite. I believe we should also give ourselves a breather to reflect on our own thoughts, to reflect on the interplay between the thoughts and the emotions, to reflect even on the interplay between our emotions and our thoughts as well. For it's my understanding that the food that gets accumulated over here through all of the sensory organs and then gets transferred into the entire system, if not given a break, if not processed, we'll probably not even come to understand if it is our own or somebody else's that we have taken up. Unfortunately or unfortunately, since we are sensory sensitive creatures, those kind of food with regards to the information we are constantly assimilating. If we do not sit with ourselves in order to break it down, in order to see what we are getting and what we are not getting, it is the food that begins to drive us, which may then feel like an overload to the system because we've not even sat with ourselves. We've not rested in our own company to be able to first see it and then probably decide what needs to be unloaded and what needs to be restored back. Because probably we've not sat with ourselves, rested within and with our own selves, that will be able to even understand what needs to be unloaded, what needs to get out of the system, to be able to bring it back into a more regulatable and regulated state. And since the thought for food and emotion does not work in separation, since it is both interpersonal and intrapersonal, you also need to be discerning about the source that it's coming from, about the source that it's interacting with. So let's try and take this food for thought and discern it for ourselves, how much of that is our own. The food for thought is information that we are constantly assembling, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. And unless we take a break for ourselves exactly like the way we do when we eat our meals, we'll not be able to understand whether it's our own or somebody else's projection. We'll not be able to understand the way we function, how we function, and why we function the way we function. Let's try and think about that a little more, and I will see you once again the next week. Till then, stay tuned in. And guys, if you do like the contents of my videos, please do like, share, and subscribe.